We're on our way to Oktibbe Missionary Baptist Church Cemetery in Meridian, Mississippi. We're trying to locate the grave of James Earl Chaney. James Chaney, along with Andrew Goodman and Michael Schwerner, were murdered just outside of Philadelphia, Mississippi on June 21, 1964 by deputies of the Neshoba County Sheriff's Office and members of the Ku Klux Klan. Although Goodman and Schwerner were from New York, James Chaney was born and raised in Meridian. His parents were Fannie Lee and Ben Chaney Sr. He had one younger brother, Ben, and three sisters, Barbara, Janice, and Julia. James started supporting the NAACP while in high school. He once wore an NAACP pin to school and was suspended by the black principal. In 1963, Chaney was volunteering to help the civil rights movement register black voters in and around Lauderdale and Neshoba counties. James was assisting 24-year-old Michael Schwerner and his wife Rita, who had been sent to Meridian to set up a shop or headquarters for CORE, Congress of Racial Equality, to register black voters. James, by the time he met the Schwerners, had dropped out of school and become a full-time volunteer and member of CORE. On May the 25th, 1964, Chaney and Schwerner met with members of the Mount Zion Methodist Church in Longdale, Mississippi, in Neshoba County. They knew that they were being watched by law and Klan members, but so far they were only harassed from time to time. Things began to get serious when on June 16, 1964, sheriff's deputies and armed Klan members confronted church leaders that were leaving Mount Zion by forming a roadblock. They forced church leaders to get out of their cars and turn off their headlights. In the dark, they seriously pistol-whipped church leaders and threatened them not to have any contact with civil rights workers. It was clear that they were expecting to find Schwerner and Chaney at the meeting. They were not. Schwerner and his wife Rita and Chaney had gone to Ohio attending a CORE training mission. A few hours after the confrontation with church leaders, Mount Zion Church was firebombed and burnt to the ground. When Chaney and Schwerner heard the news, they headed back to Mississippi, along with a new member, 24-year-old Andrew Goodman. On July the 21st, 1964, the next morning after arriving in Meridian, sometime around 10 a.m., the three rights workers headed out from Meridian, going to investigate the Mount Zion fire and encourage the members not to give up. The normal route was to take Highway 19 north to 491 north and turn east on 16 to the Mount Zion Church. They spent some time looking at the burnt ruins and speaking to members that had gathered. Around 3 p.m., the civil rights workers were on their way back to Meridian. As they turned off of 491 onto Highway 16, they were spotted by Deputy Cecil Price. Schwerner is driving the CORE 1963 blue Ford station wagon that Price knew well. Schwerner had outrun Price on 2 previous occasions, knowing if he could make it to the Lauderdale County line, he would be better off in their custody than in Neshoba. Witnesses stated that they seen the station wagon traveling at a high rate of speed. Some believe that Deputy Price was chasing the station wagon and shot the right rear tire out. However, they could have just had a flat and pulled over in front of the VFW Club on Highway 16, only a few miles out of Philadelphia, to change a tire when Price spotted them and radioed others. The three was running late and decided to take Highway 16 to Philadelphia and then take 19 to Meridian. It was faster than taking 491. They had left word in Meridian, in case we don't make it back by 4 o'clock, come looking for us or notify officials. Deputy Price charged Schwerner with speeding. He helped the other two on suspicion of arson. Price took the three in his patrol car, and one of the state troopers drove the station wagon. The workers were taken to jail located on Myrtle Street, only 1 block from the county courthouse. They were held in seclusion for several hours and was not allowed to make any phone calls. Although headquarters in Meridian had called the Neshoba County Jail asking if the three were there and told no. It's believed that around 10 p.m. the three were released and ordered to leave town. During the hours of incarceration, unbeknownst to the three workers, plans were being made to murder the three between sheriff's deputies and leaders of the Klan. After only a few miles out of Philadelphia, the station wagon was pulled over again by Deputy Price. But this time, 2 carloads of Klan members were following the deputy's vehicle. He placed the three again in his car and took them to a secluded spot where they wouldn't be seen. James Chaney was tied to a tree, with Michael Schwerner and Andrew Goodman forced to watch. Chaney was whipped with a chain until he collapsed. Later, his autopsy showed that the chain had broken his ribs, shoulder blades, arms, and neck bones. When thinking James was dead, they shot Michael and Andrew. They placed them in a vehicle to be taken to a predetermined burial spot. On the way, they pulled over and shot James, thinking he might be alive. When word hit the news that 3 civil rights workers were missing in Mississippi, news media swarmed into the state. Many people believed that it was a stunt in order to recharge the civil rights movement.
I believe them jokers planned and sitting off up in New York laughing at us Mississippi folks.
Well, I believe it's a big publicity hoax, but if they're dead, I feel like they asked for it.
Now, this is Rita Schwerner, still in Ohio, waiting on news of her husband. After 4 days missing, on June the 24th, the Corps station wagon was located on a logging road in a swampy area not far from Philadelphia. The car had been burned by using the same accelerants that was used to burn Mount Zion Church. Pressure was being placed on President Johnson to locate the bodies. FBI agents swarmed into Mississippi, and the president ordered 400 sailors out of the Naval Air Station in Meridian to help search the woods. On the 4th of August, some 44 days after Chaney, Goodman, and Schwerner were murdered, their bodies were found buried in a red clay levee not far from Philadelphia. The FBI had received an anonymous tip, or so they said. They told that a Mississippi highway patrolman received the tip and passed it on to the FBI. However, it was whispered that there was so much pressure put on the FBI to find the bodies that they hired George Scarpa, a mafia hitman with the Colombo crime family. Scarpa could interrogate suspects in a way that the FBI couldn't. Scarpa and an unidentified FBI agent kidnapped Lawrence Byrd, a TV salesman and Klans member, from his store in Laurel and took him to Camp Shelby, a local army camp. Scarpa severely pistol-whipped Byrd and stuck a barrel of his pistol in his throat, threatening to kill him. Now, in an unrelated trial years later, FBI agents testified they believed that Scarpa killed as many as 100 people through the years. Byrd finally revealed the location of the bodies. Now, Scarpa had worked with the FBI several times doing illegal acts for them. These accusations were admitted to by FBI agents in open federal court. The deaths of James Chaney, Michael Schwerner, and Andrew Goodman, these three men, helped secure the Civil Rights Act of 1964. On October the 7th, 1967, after the state refused to charge anyone for the crimes, 18 men faced civil rights charges. 7 were convicted and spent less than 6 years in federal prison. In 2005, 41 years after the deaths of James Chaney, Michael Schwerner, and Andrew Goodman, the state of Mississippi indicted Edgar Ray Killen for his part as the one who organized the murders. He was found guilty of manslaughter and given a life sentence. He passed away in Parchment State Prison on January 11, 2018, at the age of 92. Before his death, he developed a close friendship with his cellmate. He signed over his land and property and power of attorney to James Hart Stern, a black man. This is the grave of 21-year-old civil rights hero James Earl Chaney. James Chaney was brutally tortured before his death because he had a desire to be a free black man. Although he was unable to achieve it for himself, he was able to achieve it for millions of others. James was anxious to get back to Meridian that fatal night. He had planned to see for the first time his daughter Angela, that was only a few days old. Angela will grow up supporting her daddy's dreams. James's mother, Fannie Lee Chaney, will become a civil rights worker after her son's death. Michael Schwerner's wife, Rita, will become an attorney in Washington State and become a civil rights activist.